में पैसा लगा। बाबा साहब B.R. अम्बेडकर, भगवान बुद्ध की धरती, कुशीनगर एयरपोर्ट बना। हर मीटिंगों में मंचों पर मैं पत्र लिखता रहा। हम भाड़ा देकर गोरखपुर एयरपोर्ट से जहाज चला रहे हैं, लेकिन बना हुआ एयरपोर्ट जो भगवान बुद्ध की धरती को पूरी दुनिया से जोड़ता है, कुशीनगर, आज तक वो एयरपोर्ट नहीं चला। हो क्या रहा? भारत सरकार और हमारा मंत्रालय पैसा लगाकर किसानों से जमीन लिया, एयरपोर्ट बनाया, भवन बनाया, फिर आ गए उसमें डेवलपर। और जब डेवलपर आ गए, हमारे लखनऊ के एयरपोर्ट का नाम चौधरी चरण सिंह एयरपोर्ट था, अब उसमें जोड़ दिया गया अडानी एयरपोर्ट। शेम। डेवलपर आएगा, हमारे वहां दान की प्रथा थी, कोई विद्यालय के लिए बाबा देवराहा दास के नाम से 2 आदमी जमीन दान किया, उनके नाम से विद्यालय खुल गया। हमारे वहां दान की परंपरा रही है, जो जमीन दान देता है उसके नाम से उस विद्यालय का, उस संस्था का नाम रख दिया जाता है। लेकिन यहां क्या हुआ? एक पैसा दान नहीं दिया, डेवलपर बन के आया और लिख दिया अडानी चौधरी चरण सिंह एयरपोर्ट। इसको कौन देखेगा? इस बात को कौन देखेगा? इसलिए ये जो खामियां हैं, इन खामियों को दुरुस्त करिए,
टिकट में ले रहे हैं,
दुरुस्त करिए। और ये जो लूट मची हुई है, ये लूट मची है, यह सवाल यह है कि कानूनविद, सवाल यह है कि अवसर प्राप्त लोग, सवाल यह है कि पढ़े लिखे लोग 80% यात्रा जहाजों से करते हैं, लेकिन इतनी बड़ी लूट उनके आंख के नीचे एयरलाइंस कंपनियां कर रही हैं। इस पर क्या कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए? होनी चाहिए कि नहीं होनी चाहिए? टिकट में लूट, 10 रुपए का बस का भाड़ा दो, यहां से यहां तक जाने का निश्चित है। ट्रेन में आप दिल्ली से देवरिया जा रहे हैं, ट्रेन में दिल्ली से बलिया जा रहे हैं, भाड़ा निश्चित है, लेकिन जहाज में कोई भाड़ा निश्चित नहीं है। और एक ही कंपनी के हाथ में पूरी एयरलाइंस, लगभग 70 से 80% जहाज और रूट पर कब्जा एक ही एयरलाइंस कर लिया। बाकी एयरलाइंस को और मुनाफा करने वाले रूट दे दिए गए। और परिणाम क्या हुआ? आपके सामने रहा कि बाल बच्चे, महिला, पुरुष एयरपोर्ट पर पुलिस, हमारे BSF के जवानों से लड़ रहे थे। मामूली कर्मचारी मार कर रहा था, जो मालिक हैं वो इस कमरों में बैठे हुए थे, और उनके कर्मचारी एयरपोर्ट पर और यात्रियों के बीच झगड़ा हो रहा था। इसलिए ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण संकल्प है। मेरी मांग है कि उद्योगपतियों को देश के हवाले करने का जो मंसूबा आप लोग पाले हैं, ऐसा मत करिए। सपना देखा था कि चप्पल पहनने वाला भी जहाज से उड़ेगा। अरे हवाई चप्पल पहनने वाला जहाज तो दूर, जहाज पर चलने से दूर हो गया, लाखों का सूट बूट पहनने वाले लोग भी दूर हो गए। यह हो गई स्थितियां। इसलिए मैं आपसे कहना चाहता हूं, इस देश को ये जान लीजिए, पैसे के बल पर सरकारें बन सकती, लेकिन एक दिन वह भी आएगा जब पैसा बांटने वाले ये जान लेंगे कि हम पैसा बांट करके रमाशंकर विद्यार्थी को, रमाशंकर राजभर को मुख्यमंत्री बना सकते हैं, तो लाओ मैं ही क्यों न हो जाऊं। और वह दिन जब आएगा तो लोकतंत्र खत्म हो जाएगा, लोकतंत्र नहीं बचेगा। इसलिए उद्योगपतियों को एक सीमा में रखा जाए, यही मैं सरकार से गुजारिश करते हुए अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। जय हिंद।
Shri Arun Nehru.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for the opportunity. We are in a very critical point in the growth of this country, madam. For that, I think the structural changes started from 91 onwards. The great stalwarts who were able to get our country going, I thank them first, I salute them first. But today, we are in the very important topic of connectivity through airfares, through air connectivity and its related infrastructure. I will put my points across in 10 basic segments, madam. The first important is the issues in the last 10 years has actually come to us in the last 2 weeks. All of us have been invariably, inconvenienced because of those policies which had happened here. The policies were very well intentioned, good intention. The intention was to have very low fares and get more people on board, get people from point A to point B faster. Now, what had happened is there was a market concentration. Now, there are lot of members have read about market concentrations and its risk. Now, market concentration is risk irrespective of its being a capitalist or a socialist society. Now, India's air market is dominated by two players. And unfortunately, some of the policies that helped us get this connectivity to actually have various tags, the largest number of aircraft orders, the largest number of people getting airborne, the largest number of growth in terms of air traffic, and we have got good numbers. We've got good numbers to show this world. But where has this got us to? The leading carrier has, in 60% of the routes, that's the only carrier. So imagine if you're the only carrier, the pricing power or the domination power in terms of seat availability or the slot timings, that's one segment on the soft part. On the hard part, the hard, landing part, where the airport operator, in spite of spending large amounts of money, is actually left to deal with only one airport operator. And hence, there is a lot of inefficiencies which actually seep finally into customer service, in terms of pricing power to the consumers, and in terms of the overall airport infrastructure that is available in our country. Now, the second point, which the government actually did it right. 2 years ago, they published the flight safety rules for air crew, for the support crew, and the flight rotation, which is actually very well intentioned, a good cause. And it was happened 2 years ago. Now, there are a number of reminders, I believe, that I've read in the newspapers that, the Honorable Minister, along with the department, have taken a lot of efforts to remind the airlines to actually get ready for that implementation. Now, in the last week or so, in the last 3 weeks, ma'am, we have seen that the carriers actually didn't care even a bit about these rules coming into impact. And what they did was even more atrocious. They had invariably said no to those rules, and they had large-scale cancellation in order to force or have an impact or have a feel of saying forcing the government had to actually reverse those rules. The government did not reverse the rules, but what had happened was it relaxed the rules for some time so that they can cope up back again. Now, we have two things here, madam. We had a government that clearly told all the operators, gave enough time, but we had the operators lax, and actually the government had to go back even for 2 months. Even if it's 2 months, it's 2 months. Duly elected government, which had enough time, was not, I think they subverted the power of the government and its people because of the dominant power. So I want the government to note that just by creating efficiency of scale can actually come us bite back in terms of policy implementation and in terms of pricing power. So your intention to actually give better pricing to the consumers is actually coming to haunt you in terms of giving, preferential to these market powers. Now, one of the side effects of such powers is that the regulatory framework has wide regulatory framework. I mean, we've got great people manning the airport authority, manning, the research departments of air traffic controls. Because of such market power that the players have, the regulatory environment actually has turned reactive. In the last 5 years, or even take 6 years, ma'am, the department had to constantly monitor airfares. Why is the department supposed to monitor airfares? It was not the policy of the government. The policy of the government is very clear. They want market to determine the prices. And look at what determining the prices of the market has taken us to. It has, time and again, the department has been forced to be reactive, asking the airlines to cap prices, giving out regular orders. What that happens is this happens into a regulatory creep. So they can't form a proper regulation in terms of a proper time, and every year they have to change rules because of the market participants. Now, the sub-effect of actually having scale is actually weak competition. Now, US, the most capitalist state, has 4 airlines, madam. You have the market share ranging from 35% to 22%, and there are 4 airlines. So what this gives us is there's enough competition, there's enough scale, and it sticks to market, the decision of the government to stick to market and actually get the best prices for the consumer. So I hope the government realizes that giving scale, I think in a regulated manner, which actually help rather than just giving a total free hand to the market where it's bound to abuse. And we have seen this in the last 3 weeks. Although well-intentioned, your intention was to keep prices low, but what had happened is that the market carriers actually tweaked it. I will also give you a flagship example of a flagship program which is actually misused by the operators. The Udan scheme, which is a very good scheme. They wanted to connect far-flung areas. That's the principal aim of the scheme, madam. Now, take my case, take in Tamil Nadu. You have ATRs operating continuously. We have about 7 services to each of the cities regularly every hour. Now, if you take the break-even, Udan gives a lot of incentives for the operators to operate the ATR, the turboprops, the smaller aircrafts. Now, the break-even point, because of the incentives of the government, is if the aircraft operator fills out 50 seats, it's break-even. So about 80 seats, 30 seats is profitable. Now, same aircraft, if they are able to use the larger aircraft, the jet engines, the break-even points out of the total 186 seats comes to approximately 110 seats, madam. So you see the, the unfair situation created to the consumer, where he has to use a turboprop but still be profitable, where the government intention was to connect to far-flung areas. So the request is, please give the Udan scheme, focus it to far-flung areas in the northeast, where they can actually get air service and pricing, and not the well-connected markets, where the, the participant use this scheme to connect only well-connected markets and actually gouge pricing. And jet engine prices are actually cheaper than the turboprop, madam. Now, a lot of the users, a lot of the members would have traveled to the last mile using turbo. It's for the, through you, madam, I asked the department to actually check on the effectiveness of the Udan scheme on the non-commercial routes which they actually wanted to implement. Now, the fifth point that I want to make here is infrastructure development. For some other reason, for whatever reason, all the policies have a very high entry point, madam. Of course, the government wants proper airport operator, well-funded airport operator who can actually tap the global markets. I think that has led to a
Honorable member, just give me a minute. Honorable members, I'm to inform you that 5 hours have already been taken on this resolution, thus almost exhausting the time allotted for its discussion. As there are 3 more members to take part in the discussion on the resolution, the House has to extend time for further discussion on this resolution. If the House agrees, the time for discussion of the resolution may be extended by 1 hour. Is that okay? All right. Thank you. The time is extended by 1 hour. Honorable Member, Mr. Nehru.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I was talking about the infrastructure delays and uneven regional development. Some of the metro areas and, in the south of India, we still have higher number of airports where the travel is still substantially higher compared to certain regions. Now, the high entry point is from the government's eye is to have a liquefiable or a liquid operator, or operator with enough cash flows, positive environment, because they have allowed certain operators to tap the global markets. And the global markets have very high standards. And one of the effects, or follow-on effects of such scheme is we have very high entry fees, madam. For the ticket, almost 25% of the ticket cost actually goes into taxes and airport fees, which the government is right to give the airport operator. But what happens is this very high entry point actually creates the opposite effect of what the government wants to do, which is actually keep prices low. So a good discussion about this, or a good policy change improving or accessing new players will actually help rather than a very few players, madam. Now, passenger experience. Anybody experience Indigo would note, I'm sorry to name the airline, but anybody who's going through a dominant airline would know the service levels. If it's a no, it's a no. It's not service. It's actually, we have no choice. Because of this, there's so much pricing power, and they have a very dominant, practice of going. In fact, one of the newspapers actually mentioned, madam, the increase in the, as a matter of fact, there's a lot of increase in PP tablets if you actually take festival seasons. And that's just correlated to increase in air traffic. Madam, I'm just finishing, madam, just last point. Last point is the financial health of airlines. One of the, again, subset of the dominant power is actually because of dominant airlines. 2 points about Trichy alone, madam. Sir, in this topic also, example of Trichy, because it's a tier 2 city, it's a non-metro city, and most of us belong to tier 2 or tier 3 cities. Establishing a hub and spoke model where every flight has to go to Chennai and then come back rather than interconnectivity is actually increasing cost. So I request the minister to actually have a differentiation or more efficient hub and spoke model. The last point is we have very few MROs in the country, madam, maintenance, repair and overall facilities, where there's enough land in tier 2 cities and only the tier 1 cities have MRO. And because in the tier 1 cities, because of the expense, it's still very expensive. So I request through you, madam, that the minister should consider actually opening up more MROs and hence improving the facility of the country. Thank you for the opportunity, madam. Thank you so much.
Shri Saugat Roy ji.
Sir, I thank the honourable member Shafi Parambil for ভালো আছি আপনি ভালো আছেন সব মন্ত্রীদের সাথে কথা হয়ে গেছে I thank him Mr. Shafi Parambil for having brought this resolution. I think today the Civil Aviation Ministry has become a lame duck ministry. Up to the time Air India was with the government, it had some weight. Now, Civil Aviation Ministry only controls the safety and other matters, but it has no control on the fares. Now, this matter has been repeatedly raised in this House by members from Kerala, where large number of expatriates are there in the Gulf and they come to India at the time of the Christmas festival. And at the time of Christmas, etc., the migrant workers in the Gulf who are wage earners, they face tremendous difficulty, and sometimes the fares are so high that they have to spend a year's salary on to and fro tickets. It has been raised, but the government has done nothing to mitigate their suffering. Now, this problem has been highlighted during this Indigo crisis. In Indigo crisis, the government appeared to be absolutely ineffective. Every day, hundreds of passengers, thousands of passengers were stranded at airports. Flights were cancelled. Their luggages were piled up. So far, they have said DGCA has issued a show cause to Indigo. DGCA people are sitting at the headquarters in Indigo, but so far no punishment, either to Rahul Bhatia or their foreigner CEO. This is a most unfortunate state of affairs where the government is a mute spectator to the suffering of passengers. Now, the Gulf problem that was mentioned mainly affected those coming from Dubai and other Middle Eastern countries. But this time, the internal passenger fares went through the roof, up to 1 lakh rupees.
I think whether you notice that the FTTL rules.
Mr. Venugopal.
These
Mr.
FTTL
Venugopal.
rules relaxed during this crisis only for Indigo. That has been done by DGC only.
Yes.
Now, we don't understand that if we are relaxing FTTL rules, why don't it relax to Air India or other airlines? Only FTTL relaxed through Indigo only. Basically, the pilots are asking for a judicial inquiry. Why government is very clear on this. Why government is running away from the judicial inquiry? I think this is the pilots themselves told us. This is clearly a scam. This is clearly a scam. Whether are you going to take it?
Mr. Saugat Roy.
I fully support what Mr. Venugopal said, that there is a scam involving the Indigo and the government of India. And you will notice, if you see the list released by the Supreme Court of contributors to various political parties, how much money Indigo has paid to BJP for the favors rendered.
We'll take a look. We'll take a look.
What is illegal?
अब बोल दिया ना, अब बैठ जाइए, आप भी चेयर पर बैठते हैं.
What is illegal?
हम देख लेंगे, रिकॉर्ड देख लेंगे. You don't have to worry, देख लेंगे.
अरे बैठ जाइए.
बैठिए.
देख लेंगे.
में इतना क्या है?
बैठिए.
इतना नाराज मत होइए.
इतना नाराज मत होइए
मैडम.
सर.
देख लेंगे.
सत्ता में
रिकॉर्ड देख लेंगे.
मैडम, हम तो पार्टी का नाम बोला, निशिकांत दुबे का नाम तो नहीं बोला, तो क्यों आपत्ति क्या है?
ओके.
कितना कॉर्पोरेट डोनेशन मिला है, किससे, वो आप हाउस के सामने रखे.
यस.
इंडिगो कितना दिया, हाउस के सामने रखे.
यस.
तब तो हम बोलेंगे. मैडम, the difficulties we saw how the government was a helpless spectator.
प्राइवेट उसमें नहीं होता. पॉइंट ऑफ ऑर्डर. बैठ जाइए.
Before this tremendous problem faced by
प्राइवेट में नहीं. हाँ, वो एक्सपंज हो जाएगा.
सर, मैडम,
एक्सपंज हो जाएगा.
in 1994 the
अरे निशिकांत जी,
मिस्टर स्वागत रॉय,
आपको तो ज्यादा ही दिया है ना.
प्लीज एड्रेस द चेयर. Please address the chair.
Madam, I am addressing
Address
you.
the chair.
Madam, this 1994 deregulation of airfare was a wrong decision. The Congress government was in time, at that time, Madhav Rao Scindia, dear Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia's father was civil aviation minister. They said that we are having open sky. Open sky means no regulation on airfares, no regulation on the airlines. What has happened today? In the total aviation market, Indigo of Rahul Bhatia is alone having 66%. Air India, even after its takeover by Tata, is only 26%. But during the recent crisis, I've been traveling, Air India did not raise their fare like Indigo did. So Indigo, by putting passengers in a problem, they have created this terrible situation. Madam, this House should rise up and say that why is Rahul Bhatia not in jail? Why are the Indigo top bosses not in jail? So far, that effective steps have not been taken. Now, while I speak on this, I mention what our colleague Sayani Ghosh raised today morning. She said how Calcutta is being deprived. Kolkata, airports, Madam, I will complete in 2 minutes. Kolkata airport has completed 100 years. Now, there is no direct flight to England, UK, or to America from Kolkata. Why is Kolkata being discriminated? Because it is run by a government opposed to the BJP. So if you have to go to UK, USA, then you have to go either to Mumbai or Delhi. Or even Etihad, they also don't have a direct flight. So we are put in difficulty. Now northeastern states, they are also facing this difficulty. From Silchar in Assam, there is no direct flight. Silchar people have to come to Kolkata and then go to Delhi. This difficulty should ease. Our minister is a young man, enthusiastic, jovial, but clearly he is not up to the mark in his job. Maybe he hasn't got the political authority to take steps against these errant airlines. As it is, madam, the airports have all gone to one single family, Adani. Now, Bombay, earlier it was GVK, now you see Adani. As our member from SP mentioned, Chaudhuri Charan Singh Airport in Lucknow, it is Adani Chaudhuri Charan Singh. So you have given the whole airlines sector to one family, and the whole civil aviation, whole the plane flight is given to Rahul Bhatia. Now, why should the country suffer like this? For so long, we did not have open skies. The people still traveled. They were not put to such difficulty. That's why I thank Shafi Parambil for bringing this motion. He has pointed, he has highlighted, and today at least the minister will be forced to reply. And it's a very detailed resolution. I'm very happy about the same. Madam, we should sit up, and from your chair, you should give a dictum that the Civil Aviation Ministry put up their socks and really do something to alleviate the misery of the common poor passengers. Thank you.
Shri Jagdambika Pal.
सभापति महोदय, मैं अत्यंत आभारी हूँ कि आज के वर्तमान संदर्भों में आपने एक अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण प्राइवेट मेंबर बिल जो हमारे श्री शफी परमिल साहब के द्वारा प्रस्तुत किया गया है, उसके समर्थन में मुझे बोलने का अवसर दिया। इन्होंने 26 जुलाई 2024 को दिया था, लेकिन आज जब हमारे इंडिगो की जिस तरह से पिछले दिनों घटनाक्रम हुआ और उसके बाद उस परिस्थितियों में, उन संदर्भों में आज इस बिल का और महत्व बढ़ जाता है। और इस बिल का इसलिए भी महत्व बढ़ जाता है कि जिस तरीके से ये प्राइवेट मेंबर बिल है, ये केवल एक हम निजी संकल्प पे कोई चर्चा करने के लिए नहीं खड़े, और ये केवल आज जिस तरह के घटनाक्रम हुए, ये केवल अब हवाई किराए का ही मुद्दा नहीं रह गया। भविष्य में यात्रियों की सुरक्षा का भी, उस एयर पे चलने वाले जो हमारा एयर ट्रैफिक है, उनकी ज़िंदगी के साथ जो एक जिम्मेदारी होनी चाहिए, उनकी ज़िंदगी की हिफाजत, उनके परिवार की हिफाजत, वो भी एक बड़ा मुद्दा है। यात्रियों से जिस तरह से भी किराया लिया जाए, फ्लैक्सी फेयर के नाम पे 4-4, 5-5 गुना बढ़ जाए, और इसके बावजूद भी जो जिम्मेदारी एयरलाइंस की उन यात्रियों की सुविधाओं के लिए होना चाहिए, उन सुविधाओं की भी जिम्मेदारी नहीं पूरी होती है, तो स्वाभाविक है कि ये देश के 140 करोड़ लोग जो हैं, उनके अधिकारों से जुड़ा हुआ है और उनके भविष्य से भी जुड़ा हुआ है। इसलिए मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि ये प्रस्ताव या जो संकल्प आया है, ये संकल्प हमारे देश के 140 करोड़ लोगों के उस आवाज़ को दर्द देता है। जब त्यौहार आता है, छठ का त्यौहार आएगा या कोई आपदा का समय आ जाएगा, उस आपदा के समय जिस तरीके से ये किरायों में वृद्धि होती है या कहीं अचानक कोई संकट आ जाए, तो उस गरीब के लिए या मध्यम वर्ग के लिए जिस तरह से टिकट के फ्लैक्सी फेयर के नाम पे 5-5, 6-6 गुने महंगे हो जाते हैं, उसका कोई जवाबदेह नहीं होता। पिछले दिनों हम लोगों ने पीएसी में भी बुलाया था, केसी वेणुगोपाल जी भी थे, निशिकांत जी भी थे, हमारे सब सदस्य थे, और इस पर काफ़ी हम लोगों ने चर्चा की थी। उस समय भी जो डीजीसीए की बात है कि डीजीसीए ने जो ये नियम लागू किया, और उस नियम में कि जो हमारे पायलट्स की यात्रा के आवर्स हो, उनकी सुविधाएं हो, उस तरीके से लेकिन आज जो हमारे प्रिंसिपल साहब ने कहा है, अगर उस दिशा में हम देखें तो आज स्वाभाविक है कि जो एयरक्राफ्ट एक्ट 1934 है, उस एयरक्राफ्ट एक्ट 1934 जो देश का एक मूल केंद्रीय विधान था और केंद्र सरकार को जो एयर के लिए रूल्स बनाने की शक्तियाँ देता था, उसमें किराए भी थे, शुल्क भी था, नागरिक उड्डयन की सुरक्षा था और उसके रेगुलेशंस के भी सब नियम थे। अभी स्वयं शौकत दादा ने उल्लेख किया कि 1994 में जिस तरीके से इसको डीरेगुलेट किया गया और पूरी चीज़ें मार्केट ड्रिवन कर दिया गया, जहाँ पहले सरकार का अधिकार था कि हम एक कैप लगाएंगे किसी रूट की यात्रियों की जो उसका किराया होगा, वो एक अनसर्टन बेसिस जो उसका एक्सपेंडिचर होगा, सारी चीज़ों को देख करके, और इसी एक्ट के आधार पर सरकार ने उस समय एयरक्राफ्ट रूल्स 1937 बनाए, जिसमें उन्होंने हवाई सेवाओं के लिए, परिवहन सेवाओं के लिए पूरा जो एक टैरिफ का या किराए का ढांचा होता है, वो ढांचा बनाया था। ये वही नींव था जिस पे पूरा सिस्टम टिका हुआ था। लेकिन उसके बाद जो एयरक्राफ्ट रूल्स 1937 के भाग पार्ट 13 में आया एयर ट्रांसपोर्ट सर्विसेज के लिए, वो नियम 134-35 के आसपास ही किराए और टैरिफ के मुख्य प्रावधान तक रह गया, जबकि रूल 135 का जो सब रूल 1 है, उसके तहत एयरलाइंस के को लागत, उसकी जो सेवा की जो सुविधाएं हैं, विशेषताएं हैं सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स की, उनको उचित लाभ और जो एक प्रचलित किराया हो, उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए टैरिफ बनाने की आज़ादी थी। लेकिन आज तो उस टैरिफ की जो एक आज़ादी दी गई थी, अब कोई अकाउंटेबल नहीं है। अगर कुछ लोग सर्च करने लगे किसी सेक्टर पे, एक साथ 4-6-10 लोग, तो जिसका किराया 5,000 है, सर्च करते करते 7,000 और बुक करते करते 10,000 से ऊपर। आखिर ये किस तरीके से किराया को या उनके टैरिफ को इस तरीके से आज़ादी देता है। और उसके बाद जबकि इसके सब रूल 2 में था कि उसे वेबसाइट पे प्रकाशित करना अनिवार्य होगा, लेकिन रूल 54A में जो टैरिफ की परिभाषा दी गई, उसमें यात्री, सामान, कार्गो के लिए था और कोई भी किराया, दर, रेट या शुल्क, एजेंट कमीशन या उसकी शर्तें शामिल थी। रूल 135 में हुआ कि जो मुख्य उनका कानूनी हक था कि एयरलाइंस टैरिफ तय करे, लेकिन उनको टैरिफ तय करने का हक दिया गया। लेकिन अगर शिकारी या प्रीडेटरी या अत्यधिक या अनुचित पाए जाएं, तो उसको DGCA हस्तक्षेप करके संशोधन कर सकता है, उसको रद्द करने का निर्देश दे सकता है और उल्लंघन करने पे, वायलेशन करने पे एयरक्राफ्ट रूल्स के तहत कार्रवाई भी हो सकती है। तो वो जो पार्ट 13 है, उसमें जो शेड्यूल सेवाओं की मंजूरी दी गई, रूट के मतलब रूट्स का जो दिया गया, रास्ता सेवा पैटर्न का दिया गया, वो सब आर्थिक पहलू थे। और उसके बाद जो अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से जो किराए को प्रभावित करते थे, जैसे रूल 89 हो, जो 89 से एयरपोर्ट शुल्क जिसका होता, आज एस्क्रो कंपनी बना लेते हैं, सब्सिडरी कंपनी बना लेते हैं, पार्किंग का अलग, उसके बाद लोडिंग का अलग, व्हील चेयर का अलग, और जिस तरह से एयरपोर्ट की अपनी उस सर्विसेज के नाम पे, आज उस पर कितना एक पैसेंजर्स के ही पर आता है, किसी एयरलाइंस पे बोझ नहीं आता टैरिफ का अगर। और वो जो PSF होता है या डेवलपमेंट फीस होती है, वो भी पैसेंजर पे आता है कि आप एयरपोर्ट रन कर रहे हैं, प्रॉफिट आप कमा रहे हैं, और प्रॉफिट कमाने के बाद अगर एयरपोर्ट का विस्तार करना है, ये क्या किस हाँ, तो हमें तो 1 घंटा कहा गया है, हमें तो 1 घंटा।
आपके लिए नहीं, सबके लिए।
अभी तो हम शुरू ही कर रहे हैं। मैं ये केंद्र सरकार ने पहली बार ऐसा हुआ कि आपने देखा जिस तरह से ये घटना हुई उस तरीके से जो हालिया में डीजीसीए ने फ्लाइट ड्यूटी टाइम लिमिट उन्होंने लागू किया। ये क्यों किया? एफडीटीएल लागू इसलिए किया कि मान लिया बार बार हमारा इस सदन में माननीय सदस्य कह रहे हैं कि 66%, 67% एक ही एयरलाइंस का कब्जा है। तो अगर देश में मान लिया मार्केट में उनकी सबसे बड़ी एयरलाइंस हो गई, मार्केट की कैप्चर उन्होंने 67% कर लिया, तो आखिर वेदर दैट एयरलाइंस विल बी अकाउंटेबल फॉर द सेफ्टी, फॉर द सिक्योरिटी, फॉर द फैसिलिटी, फॉर द पैसेंजर्स, या वेदर दे आर मोनार्क ऑफ ऑल द सर्वे, दे डोंट हैव एनी अकाउंटेबिलिटी टू द पैसेंजर्स। आखिर कॉमन यात्री को चलने के लिए जब आप उनसे किराया ले रहे हैं, उनसे डेवलपमेंट फीस ले रहे हैं, उनसे पैसेंजर टैक्स ले रहे हैं, तो उसमें और पायलटों की कमी होने के बावजूद भी जो पायलटों की कमी है उसकी शेड्यूलिंग होनी चाहिए, उसकी गड़बड़ी के कारण 2 से और 8 दिसंबर के बीच में 2000 से 4000 उड़ानें रद्द हुई। यह शायद भारतीय एविएशन के इतिहास में पहली बार इतनी बड़ी ऑपरेशनल विफलता हुई और एक दिन में 1600 उड़ानें रद्द हो गई। नौबत ये आई कि दिल्ली, मुंबई, बेंगलोर, हैदराबाद जैसे एयरपोर्ट्स पे घंटों लोग फंसे रहे, शादी में नहीं पहुंच पाए, डेड बॉडी लेके नहीं जा पाए। तो आखिर इस गंभीरता को देखते हुए अगर ठीक है प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हस्तक्षेप किया, माननीय मंत्री जी लगातार आज न केवल डीजीसीए ने केवल नोटिस दिया है, उनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई हो रही है, जांच हो रही है, खुद माननीय मंत्री उससे मिल करके स्पष्टीकरण दे रहे हैं, उनके साथ संचालन की, रेगुलेशन की, रोस्टिंग की, पायलट प्रबंधन पे उस पर पूरी चर्चा हो रही है। तो इस तरीके से जो हो रही है तो आज उस पर निश्चित तौर से कार्रवाई। प्रधानमंत्री ने अस्थायी रूप से हस्तक्षेप किया कि आज उस किराए को फ्लैक्सी फेयर के नाम पे नहीं, क्योंकि जिस तरह से रेट बढ़ गए थे उस रेट का नौबत ये थी कि लोगों को लगता था कि 40,000, 60,000, 70,000, तो उस हिसाब से उन्होंने कहा 500 किलोमीटर का 7,500 होगा या मैक्सिमम इससे होगा। तो ये मुझे लगता है कि ये संकल्प साफ दिखाता है कि आज अगर जिस तरह से हमारी एक क्रांति आई है हमारे विमानन क्षेत्र में और 2014 के बाद आप खुद भी महसूस करें कि जिस तरह से पूरी दुनिया में, भारत में, देश में जिस तरह सिविल एविएशन में उसकी मांग, उसकी अवसंरचना, जिस तरह से सुधार हुआ एयरपोर्ट्स पे और जिस तरह से यात्रियों की बढ़ोतरी हुई, 2014 में एक सीमित कनेक्टिविटी थी और 24 तक ये कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ करके आज उसकी इनकम 14.47 अरब डॉलर हो गई और 2023 में 12.21% CAG। 5 मिनट तो दे दिए, 10 मिनट दे दिए, प्लीज दे दीजिए।
मुश्किल हो जाएगा
तो आज
खुद समझते हैं।
मैं एक बात तो कह दूं कि आज हवाई यात्रा जो कहा जा रहा है क्या है, नहीं थोड़ा सा, अरे उड़ान स्कीम भी सुन लीजिए, सब सुन लीजिए। हवाई यात्रा में 2014 में टैगोर मणक्कम जी 6 करोड़ था, आज वो 6 करोड़ से बढ़ के 14.5 करोड़ हो गया और 23-24 में ये 22 करोड़ यात्री हो रहे हैं। ये जिस तरह से इसका CAGR 9.7% है और घरेलू यात्रा संख्या 142 लाख है और मुझे लगता है कि आज जिस तरह का ये विस्तार हो रहा है, आज दुनिया में हम तीसरे नंबर पे हो गए हैं और ये नहीं है, इसमें DGCA ने किया है तो देश के यात्रियों की सुविधा के लिए, उसके सुरक्षा के लिए और जिस तरह से हमारे इस पे काम किया, तुरंत सरकार ने एक उच्च स्तरीय जांच का आदेश भी दिया और कहा कि हम इस पे कोई समझौता नहीं करेंगे। कुछ पूरे देश के यात्रियों को दृष्टिगत रखते हुए कोई शिथिल किया गया, मैं बस 2 मिनट कह लूँगा, लेकिन FDTL नियम लागू होगी, उसकी प्लानिंग होगी और उसका एक फ्यूचर मतलब जो प्रोटोकॉल होगा वो भी लागू होगा। और एक बात मैं बता दूं तो अपनी बात ख़त्म कर दूंगा कि आज जो फेयर कैप की बात होती है, रेगुलेटर की बात होती है, पैसेंजर प्रोटेक्शन की बात होती है, ये कोई अचानक नहीं है। ये स्थिति जो कांग्रेस की दशकों की नीतिगत गलतियां थी 1953 में जो आपने एक एयर कॉर्पोरेट्स एक्ट बनाया, आप भी सुन ले सभापति महोदय, मैं खुद पॉलिटिकल बात नहीं कर रहा, जो इंडियन एयरलाइंस एयर इंडिया को पहले सरकारी मोनोपोली बना दिया और उस पर सारा बोझ डाल दिया और वो घाटे में चलती गई और उस घाटे का और फिर 21 मार्च, वो मैंने नहीं कहा, सौगत दादा ने कहा 21 मार्च 1994 को जब हमने उसको डीरेगुलेट कर दिया,
हो चुकी वो
तो उस सरकार में ये हुआ कि एक झटके से आपने एयरलाइंस को पूरी आज़ादी दे दिया और कोई यात्रियों के लिए मजबूत सुरक्षा का प्रबंध नहीं किया। ये देखिए, आज हम इस बिल के समर्थन में खड़े, कोई हम आप विरोध कर सकते हो,
एड्रेस द
तो इसलिए जो आज वो रूल 135B जो 2004 में जो उसका प्रावधान हटाया गया, वो एक सीधे जो डीजीसीए को ताकत देती थी एक सीधे दखल की, तो न पहले 53 में सही रेगुलेशन था, न बाद में ठीक में मॉनिटरिंग की गई और उसके नाते ओलिगोपॉली या कार्टेलाइजेशन हुआ। और इसीलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ कि जिस तरीके से आज इंडियन एयरलाइंस का दोनों का मर्जर कर दिया गया, कितना बड़ा घाटा देश की जनता के पब्लिक एक्सचेकर पे हुआ, ये विकल्प नहीं था। तो इसलिए केवल मैं अपनी आखिरी बात कह के ख़त्म करता हूँ कि ये सारी गलतियों को, सारी ऐतिहासिक भूलों को, जो उस समय विकल्प था लेकिन उस कांग्रेस की नीतिगत भूलों ने आज उसमें अगर तस्वीर बदली है तो मोदी सरकार ने पहली बार एविएशन की तस्वीर बदली है। और 2014 के पहले ये केवल इलीट क्लब था, लेकिन अब ये
खत्म करिए,
बस एक मिनट करो, अब ये आम आदमी के लिए है। मैं उड़ान अभी डीएमके के सदस्य ने तारीफ किया उड़ान की कि आज रीजनल कनेक्टिविटी में उड़ान ने जिस तरह से वायबिलिटी गैप फंड द करके और एक सस्ते फेयर की गारंटी दिया है, 500 किलोमीटर 200-2,500 में गारंटी दिया है और पूरे तमिलनाडु हो, दरभंगा हो, देवघर हो,
5 मिनट एक्स्ट्रा दे चुके हैं,
विजयवाड़ा हो,
5 मिनट एक्स्ट्रा दे चुके हैं।
बस हम 1 मिनट में खत्म करेंगे। आप यू आर सो काइंड, यू आर सो काइंड।
चेयर के लिए प्रॉब्लम कर रहे हैं
निश्चित तौर से। तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि
5 मिनट एक्स्ट्रा
गंभीर विषय है, इसमें माननीय मंत्री जब उत्तर देंगे इन बातों को ध्यान
जी,
धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू, बहुत अच्छे। श्री चंदन चौहान जी।
धन्यवाद सभापति महोदय। आपने हवाई किरायों को विनियमित करने के उचित उपाय के संकल्प को जो सैफी पुडनील द्वारा लाया गया है उस पर अपना पक्ष रखने के लिए मौका दिया, मैं इसके लिए आपका धन्यवाद, आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मान्यवर, कोविड-19 के बाद पूरे देश की इकोनॉमी के लिए और पर्यटन क्षेत्र के लिए उसे दोबारे पटरी पे लाने के लिए सिविल एविएशन इंडिया द्वारा लगातार कार्यक्रमों को चलाया गया और उन्हीं की मेहनत के अनुसार और आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के विजन को आगे रखते हुए आज कहीं ना कहीं इकोनॉमी भी बेहतर स्थिति में है और पर्यटन की स्थिति भी बेहतर है। मान्यवर, साल भर में 31 अक्टूबर 2025 तक लगभग 3.25 लाख फ्लाइट्स और 157.08 लाख यात्रियों का संचालन करके अपने आप में इस मिनिस्ट्री ने और सिविल एविएशन ने अपनी मेहनत का मुजाहरा पूरे देश के सामने और बढ़ती इकोनॉमी के सामने रखने का काम किया है। मान्यवर, मैं उत्तर प्रदेश जो एक बड़ा राज्य है पूरे देश का, वहाँ से आता हूँ, जहाँ पहले वहाँ लगभग 2017 से पहले 4 हवाई अड्डे हुआ करते थे। वहीं आज 5 बड़े इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट्स के साथ 21 से अधिक एयरपोर्ट हैं और लगभग बड़ी संख्या में, चाहे प्रयागराज हो, अयोध्या हो, गोरखपुर हो, कानपुर हो, कुशीनगर, बनारस और लखनऊ एयरपोर्ट जब जाते हैं चौधरी चरण सिंह जी के नाम पे जो हमारा एयरपोर्ट है, चौधरी चरण सिंह जी के व्यक्तित्व के रूप में अगर आज उसका विस्तार हुआ है, उनके व्यक्तित्व के अनुरूप नए बड़े टर्मिनल वहां देखने को मिलते हैं। वहीं जेवर के अंदर हिंदुस्तान का सबसे बड़ा एयरपोर्ट बन के भी बड़ी जो है गाथा लिखने का काम सिविल एविएशन और मंत्रालय कर रहा है। वहीं हमारे जाबाज मंत्री आदरणीय राम मोहन नायडू जी और आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में हमें पूरा विश्वास है कि यात्रियों की सुरक्षा और बेहतर सुविधाजनक सफर के लिए किसी भी चीज से कोई कभी समझौता करने का काम नहीं करेंगे। आज भले ही इंडिगो क्राइसिस है और वहां जो सरकार द्वारा और आदरणीय मंत्री जी द्वारा स्टेप्स लिए गए हैं, एक संकट का समय तो आया, पर वहीं निश्चित रूप से जनता के अंदर पारदर्शी तौर पे ये संदेश जाने का काम हुआ, चाहे क्योंकि और भी एयरलाइंस हमारे पास हैं, यहाँ और भी साथी बोल रहे थे, चाहे एयर इंडिया हो, हमारी एयर अलायंस हो, अकाशा एयर हो, स्पाइस एयर हो, एयर इंडिया एक्सप्रेस हो, ऑप्शंस बहुत हैं। और माननीय मंत्री जी की तरफ से भी और आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की तरफ से भी सीधा संदेश गया है कि किसी भी तरह की ब्लैकमेलिंग मंत्रालय या सिविल एविएशन किसी रूप में भी स्वीकार नहीं करेगा। आदरणीय सभापति जी, फ्लेक्सी फेयर जहां विभिन्न समय में, चाहे त्योहारों का समय हो, आपदा का समय रहा हो और किसी संकट के समय में जनता चाहती है कि डीजीसीए हमेशा से जैसे पूर्व की तरह टैरिफ मॉनिटरिंग करती आई है पारदर्शी तरीके से। आदरणीय मंत्री से हम अनुरोध करेंगे कि इसी तरह का पारदर्शिता से वो होता रहे। और जितने भी एयरक्राफ्ट रूल्स बने, ये रूल्स सभी बेहतर सुविधा उपलब्ध कराने के लिए बने। इन रूल्स में समय समय पे चाहे बदलाव किए जाएं, चाहे उन्हें और बेहतर बनाए जाएं, पर किसी भी रूप में यात्रियों की सुरक्षा के साथ कभी कोई समझौता ना हो और बेहतर सुविधा सफर की उन्हें मिले, इसके लिए हमेशा सारी व्यवस्थाएं होनी चाहिए। मान्यवर, कुछ चीजें व्यापार से ऊपर उठ के होती है। निश्चित रूप से हम एयरलाइन को और पूरी व्यवस्था को, सिविल एविएशन को केवल व्यापार के रूप में नहीं देख सकते। ये एक मौलिक जिम्मेदारी है, ये जो सिविल एविएशन की है, जो बहुत से सपनों को, बहुत सी जरूरतों को भारतीय नागरिक की, आम नागरिक को पूरा करने का काम करती। इसे हम किसी भी रूप से टैरिफ के और अन्य जो हमारे जो रेगुलेशंस हैं या फिर फेयर्स हैं, उनकी पेचीदगी में नहीं फंसा सकते। मैं अपनी बात को अंतिम रूप में देते हुए, क्योंकि समय और भी साथियों को बोलना है, मैं निश्चित रूप से इस संकल्प पे जो विचार प्रस्तुत हुए हैं, मैंने अपने विचार भी रखे, अपने पार्टी का भी पक्ष रखा और जो पूरा भरोसा है मैं आदरणीय मंत्री जी पे, राम मोहन जी पे, कि वो निश्चित रूप से पूरा जो है सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई करते हुए बेहतर सुविधाएं यात्रियों के लिए सुनिश्चित करने का काम करेंगे। हमारे यहाँ चाहे सरसावा हो, चाहे मेरठ हो, छोटी स्मॉल स्ट्रिप्स की हमारी मांग लगातार रहती है। वो कहीं ना कहीं एयरलाइंस के लोड को कम करने का काम करेंगे। मुझे पूरा भरोसा है कि इन सभी संकल्पों पर और इन्हें विचार करते हुए आप आगे बढ़ेंगे और जो भी निर्णय आज यहाँ सदन के अंदर हमारे सभी महानुभाव के विचार आते हुए होगा, उस संकल्प के रूप में आदरणीय मंत्री जी और सिविल एविएशन मिनिस्ट्री का समर्थन करने का काम करते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
श्री मानिकम टैगोर।
I rise to support the private members bill introduced by my esteemed colleague Shafi Parambil, who has been a three-time MLA in Kerala Assembly and first-time parliamentarian, but made a headline by bringing this private member bill, which seeks to strengthen the passengers' rights, guaranteed fair competition and overall over aviation regulator framework. The urgency of this bill has been underscored by the severe civil aviation crisis India has witnessed in the last fortnight. India's largest airline, Indigo, which carries 60% of the domestic airlines, air passengers have experienced a catastrophic operational breakdown, resulting in thousands of flights cancellation and widespread passenger suffering. At the peak of the crisis, reports indicate that 2,000 flights were cancelled within a week and severely disturbing travel plans out nationwide. On one day alone, more than 550 flights were scrapped, and subsequent days, more cancellation followed, with refunds exceeding 827 crores issued to passengers. The DGCA has even suspended 4 of its own flight operation inspectors for oversight, lapses, and intensified scrutiny of the airline's compliance measures. This is one of the most severe operational breakdowns in Indian aviation history, ma'am. Not a minor scheduling glitch, but a crisis that stranded travelers in terminals, disturbed businesses, and forced families to cancel long-planned holiday journeys. This is not just about an airline internal failure, ma'am. This is a crisis. Also, this crisis exposes bigger structural problems, ma'am. Why the government allowed concentrated market domination is the main issue, ma'am. Whether one airline accounts for such a disproportionate share of domestic traffic, the entire system becomes fragile. A failure in the single carrier's operation should not grind national airline to a halt, yet it did. Why did our aviation policy allow this duopoly to emerge? Why is there no healthy competition to observe such shocks? This bill calls for competition, more robust entry and survival conditions for new and smaller operators, ma'am. Second, what role did a regulator preparation play in this crisis? The DGCA had introduced revised pilot duty and crew rest rules, aiming to improve safety. Yet, despite long lead time, Indigo failed to align its crew planning, prompting cancellation and numbering its households. If airlines are unable to comply with the foreseeable regulatory changes, why was the oversight? Where was the oversight? Should regulators not have ensured compliance well in advance, especially given the airline's massive network? Why are the passengers left to bear the consequences of systematic failure of this government? Thousands were stranded. Families missed urgent medical and personal commitments. Airports reported chaotic schemes, delays in communication to affected flyers. Who compensates the economic losses, missed opportunities, and emotional distress? Current customer protection is inadequate, reactive, not preventive. This bill mandates clear compensation frameworks and enforcement mechanisms, ma'am. 4. Why was the government has been so slow to enforce real accountability? In response to the crisis, DGCA ordered flight schedule cuts, formed oversight teams, and suspended officials. But these are all reactive, not proactive measures. Why flight cancellation soared, airfares on an alternative carrier spiked sharply, hitting ordinary passengers hard? Does our regulatory architecture protect passengers first, or does favors powerful operators, ma'am? Why was there no policy to ensure resilience in Indian skies, ma'am? Indian Civil Aviation Minister rightly said we need at least 5 major carriers to avoid such shocks. Yet policy and practice has led us to a market with 2 dominant players. When we will adopt policies that prevent monopolistic control and ensure robust competition? Ma'am, aviation is not just an industry. It is the connectivity that binds this nation. It affects businesses, tourism, family, national integration. It should not collapse under the weight of avoidable operational mismanagement or regulatory laxity. The private members' bill by Safi Perimbilji seeks real customer protection with enforceable compensation, greater market competition, stronger independent oversight airlines and regulators, transparency and accountability on pricing and cancellation and refunds. This crisis is a wake-up call. Let this House unite to ensure that India's passengers are protected and that India's skies are resilient, and there is no single failure, operational or regulatory, can cripple our nation's connectivity. I urge members to support this bill, not just in spirit, but in action, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Malvika Devi ji.
Namaskar, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak on my first private member's bill. Sabse pehle, I would like to say that I belong to a party which does not believe in talking only negative, but starts with positive. Yes, the Civil Aviation Ministry was in a crisis, but only till 2014, till Modi ji took charge and started working on it. Aviation is a driver of economic growth, regional connectivity, and social inclusiveness. Udan scheme, there were a lot of schemes which have been started in the last few years. Whether I talk of the expansion of airport infrastructure, the massive increase in operational airports, from 74 airports in 2014, there are 160 operational airports today. The Udan scheme. Kalahandi has been always infamously known for its famine, its drought, and all the other infamous things. But today, I thank everybody, especially Modi ji, for getting in the Civil Aviation Ministry and granting us our first Udan airport at Utkala. Today, we are connected to all the districts and all the states, whether it's Bhubaneswar or Raipur, and that's only thanks to the Udan scheme, where the fare prices is only 3,000 rupees, which earlier we used to, if we go by car or train or anything, we pay double and triple the price. Udan, पूरे देश का आम नागरिक, which is the way Modi ji sees लोगों के मंत्री, लोगों के प्रधानमंत्री. There are 600 Udan routes operationalized in the country. Passenger-friendly digital reforms have been done, whether it is the EGCA platform, the DigiYatra, or the biometric and paperless systems. Policy and regulatory reforms, civil aviation policy and Bharatiya Vayuyan Abhiyan. Safety and international recognitions, ICAO recognition, enhanced safety inspections, all this is being done by the Civil Aviation Ministry of India. Thank you again to Modi ji and Ram Mohan Naidu ji. As again said again and again, there was a crisis situation, but it was only till 2014. As I can see, which there have been two situations which were in a way crisis situation. One which happened in the COVID period in 2019, when in May 2020, May 25, 2020, scheduled domestic flights resumed after a 2-month suspension due to the COVID-19 lockdown. The ministry imposed both upper and lower fare limits to protect passengers from exorbitant prices and weaker airlines from predatory pricing. Also, the fare bans were based on flight duration and were revised periodically through the ministry orders in 20 and 21. That is the government, the BJP government, which is for the people, by the people, and of the people, and works for the people. Second, yes, there was an emergency situation with the Indigo disruption. But again, Modi ji ki sarkar, Ram Mohan Naidu ki sarkar, इन्होंने इसको भी हैंडल किया और बहुत अच्छे से हैंडल किया. हमारी सरकार वो सरकार है जो सिचुएशन को देख के सामने खड़े होकर इसका सोल्यूशन ढूंढती है, ना कि खाली चुप के बैठने वाली सरकार. The Civil Aviation Ministry invoked its regulatory power caps to economy class fares. Fare ceilings were put 7,500 for routes up to 500 kilometers, 12,000 for routes up to 500 to 1,000 kilometers, 15,000 for 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers, 18,000 for over 1,500 kilometers. And at the same time, a lot of compensation in crores was given to the people and still is being taken care of. All I would like to say is our vision under Modi ji is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and that includes Sabka Safar. We respect the challenges faced by the airlines, whether it's the fuel costs, the ATF taxes, the operational expenses. But the solution cannot be placed entirely on the shoulders of the passengers. And yes, our government stands for the people. And yes, our government has always stood with the people. And when 100% come out with fair pricing, healthy competition, safety and substantiability for airlines, and above all, affordable and accessible air travel for every Indian, which is what I'm sure that the government will do with Modi ji ke sarkar, Ram Mohan Naidu as the Civil Aviation Minister. This will be handled and we will again stand with the people and for the people, by the people. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Madam. It has been a very long and thorough discussion on this very important aspect of airfares in the country. It all originated by the private members' business resolution, which has been put by Honorable Member Shafi Parambalji on the topic of appropriate measures to regulate airfare in the country. And from the number of speakers that have spoken, over 1.5 years, this is the first resolution that has come into this Lok Sabha. And since then, when 26th of July 2024, there were 9 speakers who have spoken that day. Again, on 28th of March 2025, there were 14 speakers. And today, on 12th of December, we have had another 8 speakers speak on this. One thing that is evident today from all the speakers that have spoken and the emotion that has come out, the government continuously speaks about how aviation today is a matter of fact. From हवाई चप्पल से हवाई जहाज का जो नारा था, वो सच है, ये साबित होता है जिस भावना से ये सभी लोगों ने यहाँ पे अपनी बात रखी. Unless it is connected to the masses of the country, you don't see that kind of emotion being spoken, both from the members this side and from the members that side. So that is an example that how deeply and inclusively, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, the civil aviation is interconnected in this country. And I'll try to stick to the points that have been mentioned in the resolution, which I feel is also very important to address today. The first point is to initiate appropriate measures to regulate the airfare in such a way that there is a reasonable upper limit to the maximum fare that an airline can fix in a route. Madam, taking up this point, let me start by looking into the aspect of deregulation in the country. Some speakers have already spoken about it. The deregulation starts with Air Corporations, the regulation starts with Air Corporations Act of 1953. That was the time when they decided that the airfares need to be regulated. There was a committee which was there and which was looking into all the regulations and the capping of fares and deciding what the tariff should be. But then in 1994, it was decided that the aviation sector should be deregulated. And it was deregulated, that idea that came up, and then the Air Corporations Act was repealed in 1994. And the idea behind the deregulation at that time was to allow the sector to grow. Open sky was mentioned because there was so much demand and potential in the country, and considering the global way of how civil aviation was observed across the world, all the countries who have seen exceptional growth in their own country in civil aviation, they had deregulated markets. The deregulation of markets, one, lets the sector open up for many players to come in, and it also encourages competition at the same time. When you are saying deregulation, you are letting the market dynamics flow in, you are letting the market supply and demand play its own role, so that the ultimate benefit is got by the passenger who is taking the ultimate benefit. So it is with that idea in 94 itself, the deregulation has happened, and from then we have seen that multiple airlines have come in and multiple challenges for airlines. Some have gone out and new airlines have come in. But the idea still remains that if the civil aviation network, the aviation sector, if it needs to grow, the first and foremost thing is to keep it deregulated so that the competition survives, more players can come in. Madam, and coming back to the whole deregulation aspect, even though I'm saying that the market is deregulated, let me also come to the fact that according to the Aircraft Act that we have right now, there is power with the central government that in extraordinary circumstances, when there is a possibility that there is a misuse of the air tariff deregulation that we have set up, then there is the power with the central government to interfere and set things right, to cap the fares so that the passenger does not experience opportunistic pricing at that point of time. And one of the examples for that, a good example there would be COVID. And you have seen how much of a challenge it has been during COVID for aviation on one side and also for the passengers because of the mismatch in the supply and demand at that time. And it is at that time the government decided to step in, and based on the timing, the time it takes to travel from point A to point B, certain categories were created, and according to the categories, the central government exclusively used its power to cap the fares, and it has done it. And not only at that time, that was not the only example of when the government has stepped in and looked after the passenger and looked after the airfares in the market. There is another example that I would like to give, which is of the Mahakumbh. We have seen that there was extraordinary demand for people across the country and outside the country also who wanted to go to Prayagraj at that time. And because of the sudden surge in demand and the capacity being same as what it was before, there was a huge rise in airfares at the time. So what the government did at that time was to cap the fares which were going to Prayagraj. That was the second instance. And the third instance, when we have seen in Pahalgam, when the attack happened at that time, and Srinagar, especially, this is a different kind of situation where people were trying to come out of Srinagar. So it was at that time, again, to facilitate for the people and the passengers who were coming out. We observed that there was a necessity for government to interfere. We exclusively used the power, and we have capped the fares again. While keeping the market deregulation intact, because the whole idea of open sky needs to be there for competition to survive, whenever it was necessary in those extraordinary circumstances, the government has used its power. And recently also we have seen during the Indigo crisis where there was a capacity constraint. There were many cancellations. There were many routes where the airlines was not able to operate, because of which there was a capacity constraint. So again, it was observed that if we don't interfere, there could be a rise in airfares. Immediately we have stepped in, we have released an order, and this time we have done the categories based on the distance, and clearly we have communicated to the airlines that there has to be a capping in airfares. I'm mentioning the point saying that because the government has the exclusive power in extraordinary circumstances when they feel that the airfares are rising above the normal and becoming abnormal, then we are taking up that step. Another initiative that we have taken. This ministry is continuously connected to the people and listens to the people, takes feedback from the people. And that has been the complete approach of this government, especially under the leadership of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. Alliance Air, still a government entity. It is running ATRs across the country. It is especially running the most important routes in the Northeast area, and also many different destinations where it might not be viable for different players to come in. Government has taken it upon itself to run those routes so that the people in those areas also get connectivity. The new initiative, the experiment we have started, this was very recently in October we have started with Alliance Air, was Fare Se Fursat. We wanted to see, because there is a lot of discussion on capping of fares, let us see if we can cap the fares to a certain extent, what kind of benefit it is being given to the ultimate consumer or the passenger, and how is the viability of the airlines. So this special initiative that we have done, which is Fare Se Fursat, which is a pilot project for 3 months, Alliance Air, more than 54 routes it is operating in the country. We have selected certain 25 routes where the demand is good, some where the viability not be good. So 25 routes across the country, both Northeast, South India, northern part of India, West, East. We have taken up all operations, 25 routes we have earmarked. And in these 25 routes, we have fixed up the fare for that route. And now, in these 3 months, it is still ongoing until December 31st, this Fare Se Fursat scheme is going on. And we want to observe. Now, if I have capped the fares, how is it benefiting the passenger is one? Because there are many other things which are involved. This is a not single-way solution that you are observing that the fares are up and you cap the fares or you make them limited to a certain extent, and the ultimate benefit is going to the passenger, because it is not just that one travel for that passenger. There is a sector here. There is the viability of the airlines. There is an airport that is operating. There are multiple levels in civil aviation for the passenger to go from point A to come out at point B. There are multiple different sectors which are continuously like a symphony working in tandem so that the passenger can go from one place to other. And it is important for us to ensure this whole tandem, the whole connectivity that is there in between, everything is viable in its operations. So that is why the Fare Se Fursat scheme is there. Government is very closely observing how the feedback on this, especially this scheme, and how the passengers are responding to it. So once that is done, definitely we are going to sit down, observe the feedback, and then if necessary, consider this with the private airlines also. And some other measures that we are doing, because this capacity constraint, usually, madam, if you see, I have statistics also to prove that when we are comparing the airfares of the country with airfares in different other places, especially internationally, the rate of growth that we have seen in the airfares is actually negative. In relative terms, in real terms, there has been 43% decrease in the airfares when you consider the consumer price index also. So if you compare with US or China, US it has decreased at 23%, China 34%, but India, the decrease has been up to 43% in relative terms when you compare with the consumer price index and the inflation also that has happened. So if you compare your own tariffs from previous years, previous decades, we have been maintaining a certain sort of level which is still affordable for the people. But in those terms also, when do you observe this airfares rise? It is not that every day they are rising, you see an increase in the fares. When these festive seasons are there, when there is a specific demand that originates in this location for most people to travel, and exactly the examples were also taken, Kerala during Onam, during Christmas, during that specific period, most of the people who are working in the Gulf area, they all want to come back and visit their families in that time. There is a specific season that you see that there is a huge capacity that is going to be there, and those are the routes, specific routes also you can see that this is where the airfares are rising because of the demand that originates. And then you see in the North India, sometimes during the Durga Puja, the Calcutta routes are on a surge. During Diwali area, the whole northern sector, that is on a rise. And also during Chhat Puja, whatever is going to Bihar, that is on a rise. These are all specific seasons. It is not that I can cap a fare for the entire season, entire year to a certain sector, because there are still, this is why market demand and market supply is very, very important for us to understand. They kind of play in such a way that they regulate the fares on its own. But when we observe, because we also know that there are seasons, because we also know there are capacity constraints in those seasons, we have reacted accordingly. When this Kerala situation observed, and after me becoming the minister also, this was exactly in September of 24, when the Kerala, the Gulf and the Kerala routes, when we observed that, see, what else can we do? What else can we do in this time so that we can facilitate for the people who want to travel and can keep the fares at a very adjustable price? Then we added capacity. We have spoken to the airlines well in advance. We have said this is a situation which is happening every year. Why don't we provide the more capacity in this region so that more people can travel? This is exactly what we have done in that time. More flights which were not operating or non-viable routes across the country, they were taken out. They were brought into this specific sector so that that can facilitate for the demand that it was created. And on top of Onam, during this Kumbh Mela also, everyone wanted to travel to Prayagraj. So we have increased the flights that are going to Prayagraj. So not only capping the fare, but the capacity needs to be augmented. That is the real solution when you are seeing that the fares are rising. Because there is demand there. It is not that you want to send that single passenger in a very adjustable price. You want to send 10 passengers to that place during that specific time. So capacity augmentation is something which is very much required, and we have done that. Kerala during the Onam, and Diwali during Diwali also we have done recently in October 25, Prayagraj Kumbh Mela in Jan 25. So we have worked out this solution when we speak with the airlines before and consider the festive season and increase the capacity. And also, madam, we have to understand what goes into these airfares. I have talked about what some of the measures that we have taken, and also airfares is not a single entity. There are different charges that go into the airfare, and one of the most important one is the aircraft fuel. ATF goes up to 40%, 40 to 45% of the ticket price that you pay is because of the ATF. And the way ATF is there in the country, the state taxes the ATF. And there are multiple states who have brought it below 5%. We are very thankful to them. There are 26 states and union territories which have brought it down because they understand that even if you lose a small revenue in this taxation for the ATF, the kind of economic growth that it creates, the kind of growth aviation network creates for other industries is very, very important, and it is with that idea that it was being done. But there are some states which still have it at a very high percentage. And it is multiple times, our predecessor, Sindhya ji, is also here. He has written and spoken on this many times and written to chief ministers, and I have also taken that responsibility. I have written to chief ministers whenever I get the opportunity to meet them. I've spoken to them on this very specific issue to please bring down the ATF, because if you bring it down, then definitely that also helps the passenger and the cost that it takes. And we have done it with Bihar also. Bihar used to have 29%, but in June 25, they have responded and they have brought in it below 4%. And there is one state, Tamil Nadu also, Manikamji is here. So I will take this opportunity through this discussion also to encourage the state government to bring it down as much as possible, not 4%, but bring it down to 1%, so that this benefit of the taxation also is being extended to the passenger at the end. And now this is the ATF. And when it comes to the DGCA measures, DGCA is also a very important regulator for us. It also looks after the safety. It also looked after the airlines and their operations. Now there is a tariff sheet which is being done by the airlines to see how are we going to charge. The tariff sheet mentions the minimum fare for a certain route, maximum fare for a certain route, and they have this bucket system where through buckets, they see how many seats are going to be allocated at a certain price. Not many would be knowing about this, but whenever you go to the website and you purchase a ticket, there is a clear tariff sheet that is mentioned there. But here the airlines also used to be doing their own chalaki. What they used to do, tariff sheet, because according to the law, they have to do it prominently somewhere, they have to display the tariff sheet. But we were also doing our own monitoring. We were checking where is the tariff sheet, but we used to go to the web page and it used to take ages to look at it, where the tariff sheet it is. It is right at the bottom, and even the letters with which it was written was only, you can see it only if you use a binoculars. It was at that situation. Then we said this is not the purpose of through which the law has been kept. Then we have updated them, they have instructed them that whenever they open, the tariff sheet should be seen right in the front in big letters so that every passenger can see it. We have brought that change, we have monitored that change. Now the tariff sheet is thoroughly displayed. But not only tariff sheet. Now earlier there was the rule that the tariff sheet, there was a small clause which gave an advantage to the airlines that every day they can change the tariff sheet. ऐसा होगा तो कैसे होगा? आज का टैरिफ शीट आज का बन रहा है, आज का टिकट हमने ले लिया, कल का टैरिफ शीट कल का बन रहा है, तो again it's not serving the purpose. Then we changed the clause. Then we changed the rule that was giving that clause, that measure, and we said you won't change it every day. You won't change it every 24 hours. You will only change it every month, so that once the passenger sees at the end of the month, first week of the month, they have to give us the tariff sheet saying in that sector, in this month, how much are you going to charge, how many bucket charges you have. So everything the passenger should know on what charges it will be there. So we have changed it to 1 month. That is also a facility that the passenger will have. I would encourage more passengers to look into this tariff sheet, to look at how the pricing is done, what is the minimum bucket, what is the maximum bucket. And this we have done it last year itself, and there we have observing some changes because it improves the monitoring mechanism that we have on these airlines and their tariff sheets. And also on top of this, there is a tariff monitoring unit that we have created in DGCA. And the purpose of this specifically is to look into what the pricing is and how the airfares are fixed. Are they following the tariff sheet or not? Are there abnormal situations that are being created? So specifically just for tariffs, we have created a tariff monitoring unit, and it has been strengthened time and again through various measures. And earlier, when it started with around 50 routes. But now we have expanded to 78 routes. We are also taking international sectors also right now to understand where and how these tariff fares are being changed and how they are being done. And the tariff monitoring unit, which is going to be a very important unit for us to monitor these tariffs, we are bringing in more IT tools. We are bringing in more technology so that the power at the TMU increases and they can analyze the fares in a very tech-based manner using the IT tools also to analyze. So that is one thing that we have done, and we are also improving the capacity with which TMU works, not only in the routes that are being covered, and also in the number of people that you are doing it. So this is one. And then the most important thing in civil aviation sector in the last 10 years, this is a success story that not only me, who is part of this government, can talk about. Everyone on both sides, all across this house, they can all speak about it, that the UDAN scheme was one of the most successful scheme, not only for the country, but for people across the world that we can showcase to. UDAN scheme has made democratized air travel in the country. The way we have brought inclusiveness in civil aviation is because of the UDAN scheme. The number of unserved and underserved airports in the country, there was a big number. And there was a challenge for us because there were these airlines who were looking at commercial interests. Naturally, the airlines would look at viable routes to function. And that is the most metro routes or the tier 2 to metro routes. But we have been creating airports across the country, especially in the Northeast, in our union territories, where they might be not viable to function, but still they need air connectivity. People were aspiring to have air connectivity in the country. So that was when our Honorable Prime Minister came up with this flagship scheme of UDAN, Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, and it has done wonders to civil aviation sector in this country. Whatever we experience, we have gone through different places now where people would have not ever thought that they would have an airport at that location. Because of the UDAN scheme, we were able to start an airport there. Because of Udan scheme, we were able to start operations there. Today, almost 1,57 lakh people have availed the benefit of Udan. More than 3,26,000 routes have taken over in Udan. More than 693 routes, specific routes which were not there before, because of Udan scheme we have started. But there are certain limitations in Udan. The Udan scheme also is not like just to cater for the viability or just to start new connections. Udan scheme is supposed to act like a spark. Wherever there is a route which is not functional, we wanted to start the route, bring in the viability, bring in people, attach them to aviation, attach them to air travel, and let the private sector take its place. It is with this idea that the Udan was brought in, and it was envisioned for 10 years. But I can tell you right now, madam, in the last budget, Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharamanji, understanding the importance of this specific Udan scheme, because like I told, it is only for 10 years. So we were on the verge of completion of the Udan scheme, but she has made the provision that Udan is going to be expanded for 10 more years. This is a great thing for our civil aviation as we are trying to grow more and more in the next few years. Not only expansion for the next 10 years, but she has specifically mentioned that 120 new destinations are going to be covered. That is the strength that civil aviation has in this country. 120 new destinations. How many we have today? 164 airports. 164 is a vast network. But look at the capacity of the country. We are not stopping here. If we want to achieve Viksit Bharat, we have to connect each and every location as much as possible with civil aviation. In the next 10 years, we are going to do 120 destinations, and Udan is going to. And what is the biggest benefit Udan has done to the country? I've talked about many of them. But one of the biggest one is that new airlines have come in. New airlines, which many of you, because they operate in very specific sectors, you might not see them. Star Air is there, Fly 91 is there, India One is there. They might have very small operations. They might have a 9-seater or a 19-seater, but they are the ones who are connecting the tier 3 cities. They are the ones who are connecting the remotest parts. You would have never seen these kind of airlines come into the country. But it is because of Udan, they found a way to come in. Is it not what we want? This is exactly what we want, more airlines to come in, more competition to be there in the country. And Udan is specifically looking into that. Now, in the last 10 years, if we can see so much success in Udan, with modifications on the Udan, which is going to facilitate for more people to come in, more competition to be there, more routes being established and more connectivity being established, imagine the kind of growth we can see with the new expanded Udan in the next 10 years. Definitely, I see the vision that there are going to be more and more airlines coming in the future. I can assure the House that there will be more and more airlines with the Udan scheme also, that it's going to come. I've talked about the tier 2 city connections and tier 3 city connections through Udan, madam, and that we are going to expand. And also in this last 18 months of me being the minister, we have given NOC to 3 new airlines also. And 2 new airlines have also applied for NOC. So this is a continuous activity. We are engaging with the stakeholders. We are engaging with the market. We are creating that aspiration that if you want to be in this sector, this is the time that you want to start a new airline, because the demand is continuously growing. This is the approach of the government also, that we need more airlines. And not only this, I would also like the people here to understand the real bottleneck here. Airports we are creating. Airlines, we have the Udan scheme where we are encouraging, we are giving the viability and all that. Availability of the aircrafts is the serious issue that we all need to understand. There are only certain players across the world who are making these aircrafts. If I have a lot of money to buy aircrafts, if I go sit today that I'm going to start an airline today, I have the unlimited amount of money for me, and I want to buy 100 or 200 aircrafts. I can't have these 100, 200 aircrafts right here, right now, today. Because the manufacturing at which it is going comes at a pace. Every month, there are certain factories that they have, there are certain assembly lines that they have. They can only, the throughput of these shops are only that much. And they are not only supplying for India, they are supplying for across the world. There is a huge demand in Gulf. There is a huge demand in Asia-Pacific region, and everyone is having to wait for this. India is also waiting. How many orders do we have? 1,700 orders. 1,700 orders pending with Airbus, pending with Boeing, pending with other players. Once we get this, if let us say these 1,700 orders, which our airlines are doing it today, if they all come into our sector, then definitely it is going to benefit the passengers. But the bottleneck is not within the country or with the government or with the airlines. It is the availability of these airlines. We have recognized that. And that is exactly why this government has taken a stance that we are not going to only wait for these aircrafts to be built across. We are going to create a program where the aircrafts can be built in the country. We should have a made in India aircraft also, and that is the vision with which this government is moving. There is a Russian Sukhoi SJ-100, which is a regional aircraft. We are talking with them. HAL is engaging with them. They have gone into MOU. They are going to get the technology here so we can build the plane here. Embraer is a very good plane, very efficient plane. We are seeing Star Air, which is operating on Embraer, giving good connectivity to these tier 2 cities. They are also trying to increase increase their operations. We are talking with Embraer. We are telling them, please come to India and manufacture your shop here so that we can manufacture the aircrafts here. If you have 1,700, demand for 1,700 aircrafts in the future, and if you can get the companies to come and build in this own country, then imagine how much easier it is going to be for people who are airline operators here to get the aircrafts. We can have aircrafts being done here in this facility also being extended. And another type of cost, because these airlines, they run on very thin margins, that also we need to understand. And what are the challenges they face? They faced COVID. COVID was a time nobody was traveling, but they were there surviving. They were there paying salaries to their people. They've all gone through it, even though there was no single flight operating in certain days because of the lockdown. That is a phase that all the airlines had to pass through. And there are high costs of leasing. It is not that today I have the money and I'm buying a plane. There is a different strategy, financial strategy the airlines are using, not only in India, but across the world. They do leasing. Leasing is where I just rent the plane from someone else who has bought the plane, use it for a certain period of time, and I give it back to him. And this is the common strategy that you're observing in all the airlines. At one point of time, maybe 2 decades or 3 decades, 60 to 70% of them were being owned by the airlines and 30% were being done on leasing basis. Now today, 85% of the planes are being leased. So then we thought, why not we address the leasing part only? Then we observed how leasing industry is as compared to the global industry. There are certain hubs. Ireland is a hub, a big hub, because they started very early. They have created all the regulations that are required. They have done with the taxation problems that are required, and they've created a hub for themselves. So anyone who wants to lease a plane, their first preference is they go to Ireland. And now UAE also, you have seen the demand that Gulf has created. UAE has created another hub for itself for becoming a leasing symbol. And then the Singapore is there. Singapore also kind of created. Why not India? This is the approach of our Honorable Prime Minister, that why not we should become a leasing industry, not only catering for our own demand, but for the entire world. Gift City was created with this whole idea that leasing industry should flourish here. And also we saw that the Cape Town Convention, through which the leasing industry, the compliance score which is seen across the world, that needs to be made into act. We didn't have an act, we didn't have any kind of legislation which was backing that Cape Town Convention. In December, both the houses, we have passed the bill and we have made the Cape Town Convention Act, the protection of aircraft objects, and now the compliance score for India in leasing has improved, so we are creating a presence in leasing. Now what happens with this? Now it will be easier for the companies, for the airline operators to lease planes. The cost will come down, so more people will be interested in this. This is also playing into the competition. This is also playing into creating more airlines to come into the picture. Now I also talked about MROs. Maintenance of the plane is another cost that is there. What happens, madam? We are bringing the planes. Planes I've talked about, we are bringing it from outside, from these companies. But even once you bring it, you have to maintain the plane. There is periodic maintenance. There is maintenance whenever there is any safety issue or a components issue or the engines issue. Engines issue is a very important part of the overall maintenance of the plane. And when you want to do this maintenance, what happens is usually the plane or the engine has to go back to its original OEM, which is sitting in France or Germany or one of the European countries or USA or some other country. And what is it doing? The forex cost. The cost on the airline to just send this plane or the engine, that is being borne by the passenger. And the time it takes, if you take out one plane, then it goes there, it gets maintained, it's come back, 1 month, 2 months it takes. You're losing the plane in India to be operating in those sectors. Now what we have done, we have improved the MRO business in the country. We have taken this government exactly with that idea. It has improved the whole MRO situation in the country and multiple other things like the taxes around the MRO components, how you open up the airports to have MROs. I've just seen one member also ask that you need to open up tier 2, tier 3. We are doing it. We have created the rules, we have created legislations that we open up more MROs in the country. And very proudly, I'm stating this also, recently in Hyderabad, near the GMR airport, Safran, which is an important air engine manufacturer, and many of our Airbus, they have these LEAP engines which are done by them. They have set up shop here in the country. Now we don't need to send it anywhere to France or anywhere. We can do it in our country itself. And the capacity with which they have created is 300 planes per year. 300 engines per year, which is almost every day one engine is going to be maintained. Now, lesser time for maintenance, less costs also for maintenance. If it's less cost for the airlines to maintain the plane, less costs on the passenger also. That is why MRO network is also important. MRO network is something we are clearly concentrating on. And this Safran coming to India is like a gateway. Once you see that one big player is coming in, all the other players find the confidence to come to the country, and that confidence and the trust in Indian system is what this government has created for them. And Leasing Act, we have done it, and then flexible airspace also. Back then, the airspace used to be very restricted. From the country, there used to be a strict norm. This is civil aviation airspace, this is defense airspace, this is restricted airspace. Everyone was controlling their own airspace. And what was there left out with civil aviation was very, very small. So if there was a restricted airspace and from going to point A to point B, if it was not accessible to go use the restricted airspace, it has to go all around. When it goes all around, imagine the fuel cost that it takes, the time that it takes. And it was Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji who made defense, who made the intelligence, who made the civil aviation. Everyone sit together, all the technologies that are there, everyone had to sit together, collaborate, coordinate, and come out with flexible airspace. So even if it is with defense, at that time, civil aviation can request that I want to use this airspace for the passengers, for the commercial purposes, and they give their airspace. So what used to take probably 30 minutes or 40 minutes over gets covered in a very shorter time, and that cuts down the cost of the plane to operate from one point to another point. That also reduces the cost. This is again playing into the fact that relatively, taking inflation and the CPI, you might even feel that why would it be that the prices are still 43% lower than before? Because of these kind of things. The interventions that we have done to keep the airfares down, there are many things which are in tandem, multi-pronged approach which is going on. So this is why we have kept them in this thing. And while I say this, I've talked about many things that are there. While I say this, there is also the second point. Let me go to the second point. This won't be taking much time, but convene a joint meeting with airline operators, representatives of the people, and all other relevant stakeholders to discuss the issue of excessive airfare during the vacation seasons urgently. This has been mentioned, and accordingly, I have mentioned that the Kerala Gulf in October 24 itself, we have done it. That was because this was placed on the time. And Honorable Speaker from the chair has advised that you have to meet the airlines, and we have taken meetings with the airlines, all the stakeholders, and we have taken it as a very proactive measure, and we are doing it every month. Every month we are sitting with the airlines. We are telling them what the festive seasons could be, what could be the airfare in that specific month. We are coming out with guidelines. We are coming out with instructions to keep them at this thing. And then the third point is establish a quasi-judicial body to regulate and monitor the air traffic ethically and equitably. To regulate, I've said that the government already has the power in extraordinary circumstances. Whenever it feels it is going out of bounds, then we have the power. And for monitoring, we have the tariff monitoring unit. We are making it more powerful. We are, in fact, including it in the aircraft rules also, so that it carries a certain kind of statutory provision for it, and that is going to strengthen, madam. And with all this, the only points that I want people to think about, one is the bottleneck of the aircraft availability. Second is the viability of the airlines. We all feel that these are companies who are charging a lot of money, but none of them are making good money. So most of them are in losses. So that is also one consideration that we have to keep in mind. And also, Competition Commission of India and High Court, they have said that the fare should be deregulated. Multiple times they have given judgments. Competition Commission also advised that the airfare should be deregulated for competition to prevail in the industry. And all this, our most important responsibility with civil aviation is safety and security. No matter how much this commercial angle, how much the pricing, everything comes, our first priority is to take the passenger from one place to another in a safe and secure way. So safety and security is the topmost priority, and we are building these airports not only for today, but for tomorrow also. No matter how much politics or political items the opposition tries to bring, we are very committed for the people of this country. If it is not there, then it won't be that 3 times in a row, one man would have become the Prime Minister of the country. That is because we are all walk, talk, and work for the people of this country and for the common man of this country. And that is going to continue, keeping intact the passenger rights, safety, and security of each and every passenger who is flying in this country. And that is the commitment from the government and from the civil aviation. Thank you very much. Now I would request from all the points that I have addressed, I would request the Honourable Member Shafi Parambalji to withdraw his resolution.
Member may like to reply.
Sir, despite of having all those measures and despite of you claiming to have taken all these actions, I fail to understand how an airline can charge 65,000 rupees from Srinagar to Delhi when the Pahalgam terror incident was happening. When the country, 26 lives was brutally killed by the terrorists in Srinagar, when people sought to move out from Srinagar, when whole country was in trouble, it was like a war-like situation. When the country was at war, the people who intend to move out from Srinagar was charged 65,000 rupees to Delhi, just one-way ticket. So I seriously raise a concern, despite of having all these measures what you've explained, despite of having taken all these initiatives have you mentioned, how could they charge 65,000 for an economy ticket for a traveler who is trying to move out from Srinagar in situation of a terrorist attack? So all these actions must not step in after the chaos has happened. We must regulate them prior to this chaos. That is what we demand through this private member resolution, sir. That system must be in place. Sir, like every one of us said, air travel is not a luxury anymore. We all know that. It is a necessity now. We cannot skip away from that fact. A student returning to his home after college, or to college for exam from home, or a migrant laborer coming back home after 1 year or 2 years of hard work, or a child coming to see his parents who is sick, or a family who is settled abroad or working abroad with 2 or 3 children coming back to home for a season vacation, just 15 days or 1 month in a year to see their old-aged parents. How about them being charged 4 times or 5 times or 6 times? And how about they spending all year earnings just to take a ticket back home, ma'am? Who must regulate this? Yeah, it is market fluctuation, it is market-driven, it is open sky. But now we learn that it is not just open sky. While we say open sky, what has happened in India is duo sky. It is Indigo sky, it is Air India sky. 92%. So where is the foresight? Where have we gone wrong? Ma'am, this is not just Indigo crisis. I must say this is governance crisis also. I must say this is governance crisis also. Because I have learned that the pilot association themselves have warned about these regulations initially. And I have heard members from either side has warned the government about the situation which may arise in few months of time, to think about what has happened. But now, even the pilot association, maybe off the record, they contact and say that there are chances of this being a pre-planned disruption, sir. Thousands of flights being cancelled in a single day. That's not my word, sir. Sir, this is what is happening here in India. Sir, lakhs of people stranded, thousands of luggages missing, delayed, treatments delayed, functions delayed, exams, even UPSC things. We have read so many stories. So what was the role of DGCA in foreseeing these things, while allowing them to have more schedules declared, more winter schedules declared, while asking them to have more pilots? What was our role to ensure that? What was our monitoring to ensure that they have done enough? Why didn't we bother to cross-check that Indigo or whoever is the player has made themselves ready to face the situation? Instead, all of a sudden, and not just in December, sir, in November itself, there were hundreds of flights cancelled. We got the warning sign much, much earlier. We have got the written letters much, much earlier, cutting across political lines. So DGCA, are they supposed to be the silent spectators of all those things? And after all this chaos happened, and after all these troubles happened, and after people paying 35,000, 40,000, 42,000 a one-way ticket for a distance that normally they used to pay 8,000, 9,000, only then we could step in? Sir, you said extraordinary situations. They are trying to make these situations very normal in each and every case. That is the biggest problem. We can understand government involving in an open market only in extraordinary situations. Sir, you yourself mentioned here, you rightly mentioned. Okay. So I just started, sir.
Start है क्या? हाँ? तो end कब करोगे फिर?
I just started, sir.
No.
Seriously, I just started.
Last में केवल विषय के पर कोई विषय बंद हो तो उसके लिए
strictly to the topic, sir. Nothing outside the topic.
नहीं वो तो कुछ बोल भी नहीं सकते. आप बोलोगे भी तो बोलने कैसे दूंगा मैं?
Sir, strictly inside the topic.
हाँ, तो इसलिए टॉपिक पे बोलोगे तो टॉपिक के इधर-उधर बोलने भी कैसे?
So we all may have to take ticket in future.
No.
On our own cost. Everyone of us.
No. अभी भी लेते हैं टिकट
तो. This is a very serious issue.
लेकिन खत्म करें 6 बजे वाली.
We have time, sir.
5 मिनट और.
Now you rightly mentioned, sir, the Mahakumbh. Delhi to Prayagraj. Sir, 32,000 rupees a ticket. One way. You had to step in. You said you stepped in. But how could they charge it like that? So where is these agencies? What are their roles in foreseeing all these things? What are their actions in stopping them doing this exploitation? After charging so many people so higher a price, people had to pay, then only we could involve. That means a regular system must be in place, not just for the extraordinary situation, for the extraordinary exploitation these airlines took up, taken. These airlines come forward.
आप भी कुछ बोलना चाहते हो? आप भी विचार व्यक्त करना चाहते हो क्या? नहीं मजा अच्छा इंटरेस्टेड सब्जेक्ट है, बोलो थोड़ा बहुत विचार व्यक्त कर देना. होने तो कुछ गिरिराज जी को टाइम हो रहा है तो थोड़ा नमस्कार देर तक चलेगा तो ठीक रहेगा.
Sir, I mentioned the Pahalgam terror attack. Sir, what is the justification? It is not a seasonal issue. This is not an indigo crisis. Sir, what is the justification for an airline charging 62,000 rupees from Srinagar to Delhi when 26 of our lives were lost in a terrorist attack, when everyone intended to help the nation, our own airline company was exploiting the situation? Yes. This is a crisis exploitation. Sir, they must be penalized. Sir, I'm coming. I don't know why you are disturbed about it. Sir, I must say, sir, that arrogance must be grounded. That arrogance of exploiting the crisis must be grounded. Sir, why I was forced to bring this as a private member resolution? Sir, I am coming from Vadagara. My constituency is Vadagara in Kerala. Sir, there are so many migrant laborers who work abroad. They work for two years a stretch, and when they try to come back home during the vacation, the charges are not just once, twice, thrice. It goes skyrocketing, sir. When the fares are sky high, our regulation hits the rock bottom. That is the major issue. So, sir, whatever mentioned, sir, Speaker is not allowing me to speak much. Sir, whatever suggestions, whatever actions you have initiated.
माननीय सदस्य, ऑनरेबल मेंबर, आपको किसने बोलने की इजाजत नहीं दी? नहीं, आप ये बोल रहे हो मुझे बोलने की इजाजत नहीं दी।
Sir, I am talking right now.
बोलिए, आप बोलिए, जितना बोलिए।
Sir, in light of one of the worst operational crises, I kindly request Honorable Minister to ensure that there is a capping for sectors, or at least for kilometer-wise. There must be an upper limit. Otherwise, this won't stop. Because we will involve only in extraordinary situation, and they will make use of that, and they will continuously
ये बात तो सही कह रहे हैं माननीय सदस्य।
And second thing, as Honorable Speaker, when I presented initially also, Honorable Speaker directed the Minister to have meetings of the stakeholders. I thank you for the meetings that you held. But, sir, as stakeholders, no organizations from the community or from Indian associations over there, they were not invited. They are the most important stakeholders because they suffer this. We have to hear them patiently. Those people who suffer this, they must be given a patient hearing. And, sir, the third thing,
रूल 178 178
अच्छा,
15 मिनट से ज्यादा वो बोल नहीं सकते सर। यदि आप इजाजत देंगे तभी वो ज्यादा बोलेंगे।
इजाजत मैंने दी है उनको। मैंने इजाजत दी है।
And sir, about the third point, and about the sir,
आप डिस्टर्बेंस मत करो इनको।
Sir, and about the third point, about the tariff monitoring units. Sir, about the tariff monitoring unit, you said that it's already in existence. It's already into play. Sir, how about having a quasi-judicial body which can overlook into these facts, these things, and which can monitor things which before the chaos happens? Sir, there are so many issues, all other members, as the minister rightly informed, every member felt emotional about this issue because it is affecting a large number of people throughout the country. Millions of people are being affected. Sir, for every single thing, they charge 20,000 rupees for a ticket and they additionally ask for 1,500 for a seat also.
Okay.
Sir, one more point. The existing unit, the existing mechanism is not helping us to prevent the chaos. So my request to Honorable Minister is to establish and declare a cap, at least a higher limit on this specific things about sectors. Second thing, when you said the stakeholders thing, please ensure that our NRI community, their associations, we can go through the embassy itself. They are being heard. They are not heard. please declare a meeting of themselves to countries respectively, if you have time or if you allowed some time. And third thing, please, I kindly request to declare a quasi-judicial body to stop the looting, crisis exploitation for once and all. Thank you, Speaker Sir, for the opportunity. I'm a first-time member of this August House.
आप पहली बार के सदस्य हो, लेकिन आपने बहुत अच्छे ढंग से विचार रखा.
Sir, my constituents, there are so many migrant laborers who are suffering this. My people from Vadagara. So for them and now everybody has learned that this is not just a Pravasi issue. Everybody started feeling the heat.
Okay.
Those who are traveling inside also. So whatever we have already is not necessary. Sir, when I met you, you told about the point of call for Kannur Airport, development for Calicut Airport. If more airlines come to play, you yourself told more airlines come to play, a point of call facility is not being given for Kannur Airport. Calicut Airport development also being requested continuously before you. If such thing happens in time, more players may come and we can have a reduced price. So on such issues also, I know who will be pressurizing this.
Conclude.
So they are pressurizing us too far away.
Honorable member,
so please involve in all those things.
Sir, most of my reply, because honorable member, whatever points he has made, before also in the beginning of this, when he initiated the discussion, he has made these points and very clearly he has mentioned all these things, and based on that, I have given the reply. One thing is that airfares has multiple aspects surrounding to it, and the government is taking a multi-pronged approach dealing with it. And when it comes to the airfares, the capping of it, the higher limits, definitely we are revisiting it. We are seeing how they are being. That is why I said the TMU, whatever the highest airfares they are doing, we are monitoring them. And we are discussing with the stakeholders, airlines, on how they decide it and what it should be. The government is continuously involved. And coming to the point of discussing, engaging with associations, the ministry keeps a very, very open approach. Whoever wants to discuss, let it be an association, individual. We have multiple layers within our ministry and our system. We'll continuously engage, and internationally also. Internationally, when it comes to having this point of call, it is a bilateral issue. And it's not just a point of call that you can give it for Kannur to the entire world. It depends on which country you want to have a point of call with and how it is. And also, they're also giving us the necessary point of call from the other country. And especially when it comes to Kerala, and he has multiple times raised this issue on various forums also, and likely so, because there is the need of the capacity. It is not only, I would like the member to also understand, it is not only about capping the airfares. Because capping the airfares, there will be 100 seats that are available. You want them to be a certain price. Agreed, you are getting it. But there are 1,000 people who want to travel. What about the other 900 people who can't travel? We want the capacity to increase. We want the capacity. I'm not shying away from the fact that the airfares need to be reasonable, one. We also need to understand that there are more people who want to travel. That is why the demand is so high in that sectors. That is why we want more airlines to come in. I've explained how we are doing it. Honorable member comes from Kerala. There are many people who are there, expats living across the world, especially in the Gulf. I would encourage him to reach out to his constituency, people who are there. Please tell them to start one airline also. Increase the capacity. The government is facilitating for that. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sir, one thing, sir. With my, I'm withdrawing as per the practice of the House. I'm withdrawing as per the practice of the House. But sir, what you told, sir, even if half of the carrier is free, seasonally they are charging higher fares. That is happening to Kerala. Even when half of the carrier is free in seasons, they are charging too much. They are making this an opportunity.
नहीं, माननीय सदस्य सदन भी मानता है कि माननीय मंत्री महोदय ने जो चीजें सदन में एड्रेस की जाती है, आपने एड्रेस करें या प्रश्नकाल में या कभी भी, माननीय मंत्री जी गंभीरता से उन सारे विषयों को लेकर चर्चा करते हैं और सभी माननीय सदस्यों से जो भी व्यक्तिगत मिलता है उससे भी और सदन के अंदर भी वो कोशिश करते हैं कि जो माननीय सदस्यों की भावनाएं उन भावनाओं के अनुसार एयरलाइंस काम
So,
करें।
sir, let's not hope. Otherwise, let's hope this situation does not arise next season also. Whether we want to discuss it all again. So let's see whether these actions might result as per the practice of the House. I am withdrawing, sir.
आपने ले लिए?
ये विड्रॉ कर लिया सर, विड्रॉ।
प्रश्न ये कि श्री शफी परिमल को अपना संकल्प वापस लेने की अनुमति दी जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हैं कृपया हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ। हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ। संकल्प लेने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाती है। अब अपना संकल्प वापस ले सकते हैं। ऑनरेबल मेंबर, ऑनरेबल मेंबर,
I'm withdrawing the resolution.
थैंक यू। सभा की कार्रवाई सोमवार दिनांक 15 दिसंबर 2025 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
बहुत बड़ा समिट होने वाला है। ये दूसरा WHO ग्लोबल समिट है और ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन पर ही आधारित है।
दूसरी बार भारत को यह जिम्मेदारी मिलना दुनिया का भारत पर जो विश्वास है वो विश्वास को दर्शाता है। यह समिट पारंपरिक चिकित्सा को मुख्य धारा में लाने के लिए वैश्विक प्रयासों में से एक है और ये महत्वपूर्ण एक मील का पत्थर भी है।
For a democratically elected government, the Constitution is a sacred text that adapts itself to changing times to reflect the spirit of continuity amid change. The Indian Constitution is the fruit of a long-drawn national struggle for freedom. It has been our guiding light for a strong democracy. Over the decades, it allowed the country to develop our constitutional bodies and representative institutions. It was the Charter Act of 1853 that provided the country a separate legislature in the form of a 12-member Legislative Council. The Indian Councils Act of 1861, that is described as the prime charter of the Indian legislature, inaugurated the system of legislative devolution in India. It was followed by the Indian Councils Act of 1892 and the Indian Councils Act of 1909. The 1909 Act operationalized the Morley-Minto reforms and introduced the element of election and representation in the Legislative Council at the Union. The Government of India Act of 1919 gave effect to Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. It established a bicameral legislature at the